Hi, this is Pam from the Birch Cottage blog. In this video tutorial, I'd like to show you how to sew a reading pillow. You'll find a list of materials and tools in the description below. You will need to cut your fabric, and you can cut your fabric for a 16, 18, or 20-inch pillow. I provide all that information in the description below, as well as a detailed written tutorial over on Hooked on Sewing blog, where I will leave a link to that below as well. So for a 16-inch pillow, you're going to cut a 16 by 16-inch piece of fabric for the front of the pillow. And then you are going to cut a 9-inch by 16-inch high piece of fabric for the bottom back of the pillow cover. And for the top back of the pillow cover, you will cut a 12-inch by 16-inch piece of fabric. You'll also cut a 4-inch by 9-inch piece of fabric for the handle. And you will want to cut some fusible fleece for those measurements for each of the pieces that you want to attach fleece to. Now for the handle, I used 1-inch by 9-inch pieces of fleece, as you see here. And what I'm going to do, and I'll show you that in the video in a moment, is to fuse that to the long edges of the handle. This is my quilting guide bar, and I like to use it instead of having to mark all the lines that I'm going to quilt on the pillow front. So if you have a quilting guide bar, you can make 2 lines on your pillow front. And then you just use the guide bar to line up equal distances from your previous stitch line. So here I am pressing the fabric for the handle. I pressed it in half lengthwise, and then I unfolded it and folded that up and pressed it towards the fold. Now don't overlap the fold and don't go all the way to the fold. You want to be just a little bit away from that fold line. So you press both of those sides, open it back up, take a 1-inch by 9-inch strip of fusible fleece, and you're going to fuse that to the wrong side of the handle. Please follow the manufacturer's instructions for your fusible fleece. Now I'll take the other 1-inch by 9-inch piece and I will fuse that to the back side long edge of the opposite end of that handle. And then I will fold those edges towards the middle, fold it again, and then press over that one more time. And then when I take this to my sewing machine, I'll do 2 long stitches down each edge of the handle. So this is the pillow back bottom, and I am fusing the fusible fleece to the back of that. Now you don't have to put fusible fleece on the back pieces of the pillow covers. I just think it adds a little bit more stability and softness to the pillow cover, so that's why I do that. And again, please follow your manufacturer's instructions for applying the fleece. Typically, I put the fusible fleece with the bumpy side up, lay my fabric wrong side down on top of the bumpy side of the fleece, and then I hold my iron for 10 to 15 seconds, move it, hold it for 10 to 15 seconds, move it, hold it for 10 to 15 seconds, and so on until I have fused the fleece to the entire piece of fabric. Now you can choose to quilt these pieces as well if you want. I usually do not, but that is totally up to you to make these pieces the way that you want them. And again, that is the back top piece. And here is the front pillow cover. Again, I have my fusible fleece laid down, and I put my fabric wrong side down on top of that, and I'm pressing it. I'm not really ironing, but I'm pressing. I hold the iron down for 10 to 15 seconds, raise the iron, scoot it over, hold it down 10 to 15 seconds until I have covered the entire piece of fabric that I'm fusing. I'm doing this in fast motion, so that's why it looks like I'm not holding it for that amount of time, but I really am. And then I check it and I go back over any edges that look like they may need to be done again, or I missed anything that I missed.
I'm sorry.
Okay. There I have the front or the 2 back pieces. and then I'm going to fold over on the top piece for the back. I will fold over the bottom edge 1/4 of an inch and press that in place. And then I'll fold it over again another 1/4 inch and press that in place. And this will be for the hem along the envelope closure of the pillow in the back. And then I will repeat that for the bottom piece. Now for the bottom piece, we're going to hem the top of the piece of fabric. So I'll take the top piece, fold it under 1/4 inch towards the wrong side, use my iron to just kind of press that in place. And then once I have that, I will fold it over again, another 1/4 of an inch, and press that in place. And I'll just go along those two long edges of the back pieces. Okay. And again for the handle, which we already pressed, but I'm just going to show you again that I put the fusible fleece along the long edges, and then I folded it in half, folded the ends towards the middle, and then pressed over that really good. And then I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and stitch 2 long stitches, or 3.5 millimeter stitches along the edge, about 1/8 of an inch away. Now this is the pocket for the pillow, and I am fusing the fleece to the front wrong side of the pocket. I'm not going to put fleece on the lining for the pocket, just the exterior piece. And this is the piece that I'm also going to quilt. So I'll take it to my sewing machine. I've already marked a diagonal line from the top to the bottom corner. And you can see that I have my quilting guide bar already installed and placed at 1 inch. So I will line that bar up with my seam to the right, and I will just let the guide bar go straight down that seam, and that will keep my stitches at exactly 1 inch apart. And I'll do that completely on the front of the pillow cover. I'll go one direction diagonally, and then once I have finished that, I'll do another mark so that it goes from the right to the left, and I will stitch or quilt the top along that way too. When I'm done with my quilting, I am ready to lay out my design for embroidering. Now, you do not have to embroider, you do not have to applique. I just wanted to show you what I've done here. Now my embroidery machine is the Brother PE 770, and it only can do up to 5 inch by 7 inch design. So I have to do my stitching in 2 different runs. I'm going to do the fox first, and then I will do the wording that I have on the left side of the pillow front. So I'm getting my little fox all lined up where I want him. I'm using those lines that are on my printout that I did using Embroider software. And then I'm just going to hoop that, get it all nice and centered, make sure it's nice and tight in my embroidery hoop. Now I have cutaway stabilizer on the bottom. I have the fusible fleece that has already been fused to the back of the fabric, and I have quilted my fabric. Then I centered my design and I'm stitching it out. And there's my cute little fox all stitched. I will unhoop it, recenter, and get ready to stitch the lettering. But I just wanted to point out that I do have cutaway stabilizer on the bottom, fusible fleece on the back of the fabric. The fabric's already been quilted all before I hoop and embroider the design. Now I'm ready to go back to my sewing machine. I'm going to adjust my stitch length to 3.5 millimeters, and I'm going to stitch down each long edge of the handle. All right, and then I can set the handle aside. And I'm going to hem the hems on the back of the pocket, or the back of the pillow, that I folded over earlier. Remember, we folded over 1/4 of an inch and then folded another 1/4 of an inch and pressed that. So I am going to stitch just a little shy, or a scant 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric all the way across, using a 3.5 millimeter stitch length. Now, once I've done that, then I'm going to scoot my needle over and I'm going to do about 1/8 of an inch from the edge and sew a second row of stitching. I think that just adds a nice, finished, professional looking touch to the pillow cover. And then I will repeat that for the pillow back top piece that we need to hem. And then this is for the pocket piece. Now I used white fabric for my pocket piece, and white is kind of hard to tell sometimes the front and the back side or the wrong side of the fabric. So I put a pin on the right side of each piece so I knew that for sure I was working with the right side. And all I did was to line up the long edges and sewed using a 1/2 inch seam allowance and sewed those two pieces together. Then I pressed that seam, and now I am stitching a 1/4 inch 3.5 millimeter stitch length along the top edge of the pocket pieces. So I already stitched the back to the front of the pocket pieces, and now I'm just doing some top stitching along the top. There we go. I think that's just adorable. Okay, so now what I want to do is prepare to round off the corners, but first I'm going to take care of all these little scraggly pieces of thread. I'm just line up my ruler with the edge of the fabric, use my rotary cutter, and trim all those little pieces away. And I'll do that all the way around the pillow cover. And then I'll take the pocket and make sure I have it lined up, the raw edges lined up with the bottom of the pillow front. This is my little label that I like to put on my pillow covers, and I'm just going to pin it to hold it in place. And then I'm going to use my Wonder Clips. You can use pins if that's what you have, and clip these together. And then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine, and about 1/4 of an inch away I'm going to baste the pocket to the pillow front. So use the 3.5 millimeter stitch length and about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to stitch down the right side of the pocket front. When I get to the end, I'll stop 1/4 of an inch away, raise my presser foot, pivot the fabric, and stitch across the bottom. When I get to the left edge, I will stop when I'm about 1/4 of an inch away. I will make sure I have my needle in the down position, raise my presser foot, and again rotate the fabric and then stitch to the top of the left side of the pillow pocket. And you can see that that also basted my label or my tag in place as well. Now at this point, I should have gone ahead and sewn my handle to my pillow front, but I didn't. I forgot about it, so you'll see that I'll catch up with that later. But I really should have done it then. So now I'm going to take the pillow front, lay it face up, take the two pillow back pieces, lay them face down on top. Now you'll notice I have the top piece, the top of the back laying down first, and then the bottom on top of that. And I'm going to clip those all in place. And I'm not going to put any clips on the corners because what I'm getting ready to do now is to round off the corners. So I'll just put a couple of clips just to hold everything to keep it from slipping. And I'm taking this round wooden lid off of a candle, and I am just drawing an arc right there in the bottom corner. And then I will repeat that with the other 3 corners. And this is how I'm making the markings so I can round off the corners. I just don't like those little dog ears that stick up on the pillow covers, so I like to round them off like this. I'm using a friction marking pen. These pens, the ink disappears when you apply heat, but it's also on the wrong side of the fabric, so it doesn't really matter. And it will be trimmed away when I do my trimming. So I'll take my rotary cutter and I'll just follow along those marks that I made to round my corners. There's 1, and then I will repeat that with the other 3 corners. Sorry, I got this one a little out of camera view, but you get the idea that I'm following that line and cutting off the corner to round it. And then with the final corner. Okay, now I'm ready to I'm not ready to stitch, but I would be if I had already put my handle on, which I forgot to do earlier. So what I'm going to do is you take the front of the pillow and you find the center at the top and mark it with a pen or a clip like this. And then I'm going to measure 2 inches over to each side of that mark, and that's where I'll place the handle, and I'll clip that in place. Just trimming off some of those loose threads. Okay, so take the raw edge and line it up with the raw edge of the pillow top. Measure 2 inches, and the edge of the pillow will, or the edge of the handle will be lined up at the 2-inch mark. Fold it and kind of fold it, curve it around, and again 2 inches away, and clip that in place. So I should have gone ahead, and I'm going to do that now. I'm going to stitch my handles to the fabric front. I'm going to do about 1/4 inch away, and I'm going to stitch across it, back up, and stitch across again, just trying to really secure those handles to the pillow cover. I am using my walking foot here, and it comes in really handy when I'm using so many layers of fabric, or layers of material, I guess. So stitch across, back up, and stitch forward again. I'm using a 2.4 millimeter stitch length for this, and I'm doing it at about 1/4 inch away from the edge. So stitch forward. Once I reach the other side of the handle, I'll back stitch all the way across and then stitch forward again. Okay, now I'm going to serge the edges of my pillow cover, but you can simply take it to your sewing machine and sew about 1/2 inch away around the entire perimeter, and then maybe do a zigzag stitch around that to kind of finish off your edges. And once you have that sewn, you just turn it right side out, and you have a finished reading pillow cover. It really is quick once you get the hang of it and you know what you're doing, and you can produce one of these in about 30 minutes. They are just so fun. When I say 30 minutes, that does not include embroidery or applique time. That's just cutting out the fabric and sewing up the pillow cover. So here's a peek at what the back envelope closure looks like. This is an up close of the embroidery design. And here is a pillow that I did that had applique on the front. And these were a couple more that I did some embroidery and custom names. I think this little reading dragon from Embroidery Library is just adorable. And so is the unicorn. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like it if you found it helpful, subscribe to my channel, and please come visit me over on the Birch Cottage blog and subscribe to my newsletter.